Codeine is set to become a prescription-only medicine in Australia due to concerns about its misuse. Codeine is an opioid and an ingredient often found in over-the-counter medications like painkillers, cough syrup and cold and flu medicines. Australia's drug regulator made the decision. It'll come into effect in 2018. The reason being that codeine plays a part in addiction and sometimes in fatal overdoses. So what are Ireland's regulations when it comes to buying medication without a prescription? Well, on the line is Daragh Connolly, President of the Irish Pharmacy Union. Good morning.
Good morning, Pat, and happy Christmas, everyone.
And a happy Christmas to you. First of all, are we unique in allowing these things to be sold over the counter?
I suppose we start off, Pat, by saying that codeine-containing products are not classified as over-the-counter medicines in Ireland. Pharmacy and the supply of medicines in Ireland is regulated by the Pharmaceutical Society of Ireland, and the current guidelines that we have from the Society about the sale of codeine-containing medicines classifies them not as over-the-counter medicines, but medicines that can only be sold
in
under
a pharmacy,
the supervision of a pharmacist in a pharmacy. So in my day-to-day practice here in my pharmacy, I would very rarely advise somebody to take codeine. I don't like it. It's a dirty drug, and like you say, it's an opiate. It causes drowsiness, it causes dizziness, and there is a potential for its misuse, and that can sometimes be unbeknownst to people. So the best advice that we give as pharmacists is to look at alternatives and to chat to your pharmacist about what kind of pain you're suffering from and what the alternatives might be.
Well, what products are available now in pharmacies that contain codeine that do not require a prescription? I think pure codeine, if your doctor was recommending it, would require a prescription, but there are products over the counter in a pharmacy that do contain codeine. Sure,
there's probably in my pharmacy, Pat, there's probably about 3,500 different products which are all scheduled by the Health Products Regulatory Authority and by the Pharmaceutical Society of Ireland. So codeine is one of those drugs. So there's probably about 8 or 9 different categories. Depending on how much codeine is in the product, it can be classified under the latest guidelines that we have when the laws changed here in Ireland in 2010 as to being ones that are recommended by pharmacists to different strengths then that are only on prescription. And then there would be different strengths again, which has only come from a consultant.
Most people listening in are familiar with Solpadeine, be it soluble or in capsule form, and it's frequently used by those who've had a couple of jars the night before or more than a couple. That contains codeine.
It's licensed as a medicine to help people with severe pain that other painkillers haven't helped. How people go about using it, anecdotally, I can't comment on, but as a pharmacist, I can tell you how very rarely I recommend it to people as a painkiller and how I think it's safest and best.
No, I'm just trying to give people a handle on the kind of products that might contain codeine. There are obviously generic versions of Solpadeine, which also are formulated somewhat similarly with vitamin C and caffeine and so on. So that's one category that people would be familiar with. There's a Nurofen Plus, which is codeine as well. I'm just trying to list things that people will come across.
I suppose the danger, Pat, of starting to list things off over the radio is that we'll miss something out, and what we will be saying then won't be comprehensive in what we're saying. If anybody's worried about codeine and what they might have at home in the cupboard and how best to use it, the best person for them to talk to is going to be their community pharmacist, because we're accessible, we're open, and what we want is for people to get the best results they can get from their medicine.
Does codeine have a proper role to play? I mentioned in my introduction that it might be in cough syrups.
Yeah, in the same way that I said that I rarely recommend it, I think it does have a role to play, but I think the circumstances in which I would recommend codeine as a painkiller would be very, very rare. The reason I call it a dirty drug is it's actually a pro-drug, so your body has to metabolize it into one of its byproducts to actually end up that you have a painkiller in your system. What you end up with then is the medicines you want to give people are the ones that have the best effects with the least amount of side effects. I don't think that codeine is a drug that offers best effect with least amount of side effects.
I mean, side effects would be, as you mentioned earlier, drowsiness. So if someone takes codeine, they may fall asleep at the wheel. Also, constipation is a potential side effect from codeine. So what else might it do to you?
Well, you can get dizziness, you can get dry mouth, and because it's an opiate, there is a potential that it could become addictive in some people, in some circumstances.
And pharmacists are instructed now to kind of give a little homily, aren't they, on Solpadeine use, for example, if someone goes in and looks for stuff.
We leave the homilies to the clergy, Pat. What we do is we give people best advice about how to take medicines that are going to be safe and effective for them. The guidelines that are given to us, and we fully back them as the Irish Pharmacy Union, given to us by the HPRA and the Pharmaceutical Society, are that medicines which have the potential to cause harm as well as do good should only ever be given to people in the right circumstances for the appropriate problems. So what you see then in the classification of those codeine-containing medicines is that they're not out on display. By law, you can't advertise them as a painkiller, where you can advertise other painkiller medicines. So what I'm very comfortable around that. When we talk about different countries and how they look at the rules and regulations that they have around medicines, you brought up the circumstance in Australia. Mm-hmm. We have a very good regulatory system here. We work very closely with the HPRA, that's the Health Products Regulatory Authority, to be able to say to them, look, we have very safe medicines here which have proved over time on doctors' prescriptions being dispensed by pharmacists that they're effective and they're safe. So, for example, people listening might be familiar with a very good drug called Nexium. Nexium was on prescription until 2015, and now, through consultation with your pharmacist, it gives us another medicine that we can advise for people to take, and Nexium is a very good medicine for stopping occasional heartburn that people get.
Finally, do you think that we should do what the Australians are doing and put codeine products on prescription?
I think we should keep a very close eye on how we are getting the best effect and safe effect for medicines in Ireland, which is what we're doing. I believe that the regulations that pharmacists work under, that are there since May of 2010, from the Pharmaceutical Society of Ireland, are serving people well. The thing that I'd like to stress, Pat, is I want to get over this idea that pharmacists give homilies. What we do is we try to get the best medicine for the person, for the patient, for that condition at that time. And a lot of the time, because codeine is a dirty drug, we don't like recommending it to people, and we want to give them an alternative.
Daragh Connolly, President of the Irish Pharmacy Union, thank you very much for joining us.